Hi guys, welcome back to Girl Therapy. I'm your host Nicole, and guess what? We have video this week. Yay! I missed you guys so much last week. I missed videoing, so if you missed my face, hi. I missed you too. I missed your screens. Anyways, enough of that. Guys, it's almost been a year since I created Girl Therapy. Isn't that crazy how time flies? All right, let's just do a few updates. I've officially finished my first week of yoga teacher training. And guys, it's just been such an incredible experience. I would love to do a whole episode maybe about my experience, and I'm going to take you guys along the way. I've been doing like little vlogs on TikTok. I'm going to share stuff on Reels and Instagram and on my Snapchat and all this stuff. But I'm going to kind of like bring you guys through my teacher training with me because it's really helpful for me to practice and to memorize and to reiterate things that I've learned in class and kind of spew it back to you guys on the platforms. And I'm excited to teach you guys some things that I'm teaching because I'm really, no matter how long I've done yoga, it's been 3 years since I've done yoga, but it doesn't even matter. I could be doing yoga for 50 years, 60 years. We're always learning and there's always more to learn. And I'm going into this being like, I don't know anything about yoga, right? Like I want to learn everything because I only ever learned from my instructors and from watching people and from doing it and from YouTube, but I've never learned in this way where we're really breaking down every single move. And some yoga teachers teach things differently, so they could have taught me wrong or whatever. So I'm really going into this experience just like I'm being like a baby. Like I want to absorb everything. I want to hear about everything. I don't care if we're breaking down how to do the mountain pose, which is just standing, right? Which we did. And we talked about what we're supposed to be feeling and where our pelvis is supposed to be and finding alignment, all that stuff. And all this stuff is so important. It's our base. It's the structure that I'm building, my foundation on. It's my foundation. I'm building my foundation. And I mean, with anything you do, relationships, friendships, your career, all this stuff, like you have to have a strong foundation to be successful at whatever it is that you want or you do. I've had a lot of ego deaths in my life. And this is another big one where I'm going in and my ego is removed. I want to just learn and grow, and I don't want to have all the answers, and I don't want to pretend like I have all the answers. And I'm not going to pretend that I know things I don't. And I'm going to sit back and I'm going to listen even when I do know things, because maybe I can learn something new from somebody else. So it's just been an amazing first week, learning and meeting a bunch of new people and breaking down all these things that I do every single day and figuring out, the why between it all. So I, leave every session feeling so fulfilled and like I've learned something, and it just feels really good to be learning again and to be really aligned with my purpose. And nothing feels better than knowing that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, that every part of my life has led up to this moment. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in today's episode, which is going to be about finding your purpose. And if you don't have your purpose, or if you don't know your purpose, or if you're still exploring and you're in that phase in your life where you're like, I don't know what I want to do, or I don't know who I am, that's okay. This episode's for you. This isn't going to be about, I'm not going to be able to give you a step-by-step procedure because everybody's different and you're all on your own time. You're all on your own timelines. We're all different. No one should be comparing. And guess what? We're not even on our own timelines. We're on God's timeline. It's not even, some of this stuff isn't even in our control. And it just takes time, and it takes trusting yourself and experimenting. But there are little things that you can do along the way to be like, am I on the right path? Am I pursuing things that I want to pursue? Is this fulfilling me? And it's a long journey, and it can be really hard. It can be really disheartening. It can be really nerve-wracking, and there can be a lot of anxiety attached to these things, and it can be upsetting, and there's going to be a lot of letdown. So we're going to just really break down that today. And like I said, it's not going to be a step-by-step guide, but I'm going to talk to you about my experiences and what it felt like for me and the things that I've gone through, and hopefully it can make you guys feel a little bit better. And of course, I'll add my little pieces of advice and tell you, some practices that you can do, or coping mechanisms, stuff like that to help you get through these times. But just know we're all figuring it out, and I'm still figuring out, even though I can sit here and say, yes, I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing and I can see my future. I'm still figuring it out. Things could change. I didn't see this for me a year ago, even 6 months ago, and we'll talk about that. So yeah, that's not going to be that bad. So anyways, that little update and then also intro. But I do leave for Costa Rica on Thursday. I'm a little bit nervous because we are having a hurricane coming, and people are starting to make me nervous now. I don't really think it's hitting Miami, but everyone's like, how are you preparing? And I'm just like, oh, I don't know. Am I? So yeah, hopefully everything's okay with that. My flight's Thursday morning. I think the hurricane's going to be hitting Wednesday. So I'm assuming there might be some delays, which would be really upsetting, but we'll see. That's not really in my control. But stay tuned for that. This will be my first ever Pilates retreat. First ever retreat, honestly. The only woman I know is the woman who's hosting it. And I actually met her at an event probably like 6 months ago. And I was just drawn to her, and she was a Pilates instructor, and me and her just kind of kept in contact. And she's like, I'm hosting this retreat. I would love for you to come. It's crazy how, like, if I didn't go to that event and I didn't meet her and all this stuff, like, I wouldn't, be going on to this retreat. It was my birthday gift to myself. I splurged a little bit, and I don't know any of the girls except for her, but it's just going to be a lot of health and a lot of wellness and a lot of fun. So I'm super excited for this experience, and I'm going to be sharing that with you guys too. So make sure you're following me on all the platforms so you don't miss anything. Next little update. Let's see yoga teacher training. I guess that's like pretty much everything. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. So, let's just hop right into today's episode. So where do I even start? I'm going to start with the fact that, and let's start with the yoga teacher training. I'm in this classroom with about 30 people. I think there's maybe about 40 people in the overall training, 40 or 50 people. Honestly, I don't know because there's some onliners, but in the actual classroom every day, I am surrounded by about 30 peers. And everybody's different. The youngest one is 19. Then there's people in their 20s, 25, 26, 27, 28, 30s, 40s, 50s. There's women who, and there's two guys, but there's women who are, a lot older, and they're either doing this for fun or they're doing this because they're rediscovering themselves. They've been through something. One woman's like, I'm finding myself again. I just went through a divorce. I'm pushing myself to try something new, and this is a new me. And that's why I'm doing this. Not everybody's doing this to become a yoga instructor. Some people are just doing this to learn. Some people are just doing this because they want to explore something new. They want to educate themselves. And, a lot of the women, there's three main instructors who are also teaching us in this yoga teacher training. And a lot of them found yoga, two of them found yoga when they were older in their lives. They've only been doing yoga for 10 years. They discovered yoga when they were 40 years old. And now they're teaching yoga teacher training, and it's their entire life. And you would look at that person and you would think, oh, you've been doing yoga your whole life. Like, there's no other thing that makes sense. Like, this makes sense for you. Like, you're a yoga instructor. Like, they just radiate this certain energy. And I'm like, surely this has been your passion your whole life. But no, they discovered it later on in life, and they fell into it later on in life. And that's when their life started to make sense. That's when their purpose made sense. And it doesn't mean that their life before wasn't fulfilling. That was a different chapter. It just means that they discovered something new about themselves and another purpose and another passion later on in their life, when they were at a point where they hit a wall and they said, well, I don't actually know what I want to do. Or, I don't know them that well. Maybe they weren't happy. Maybe they weren't fulfilled. And finally they found it at 40. And it just, first of all, it warms my heart to see women, anybody going for their dreams, no matter how old, I say in quotes because that's not old, no matter how old you are, no matter how mature you are, no matter what you're going through, just no matter what, like not feeding yourself these limiting beliefs of, well, like same to like if you're 40 and divorced, like, oh, I'll never, be in love again. I'll never experience this again. No, that's not true. It's never too late, because you could fall in love tomorrow. You could, everything could come into alignment tomorrow for you. Your passion could make sense to you tomorrow. You could hear, you could be turned on to a new hobby or a sport tomorrow. You could discover something new about yourself tomorrow. Meet somebody new tomorrow. There's no time limit to these things. There's no finish line. You're not checking boxes off. Oh, I completed that. I'm done. There's always more. There's always more to learn. There's always room to grow. There's always room to improve. And no one's rushing you. No one's holding you to any time frame, any specific whatever, except for yourself. And that's when you become your own biggest enemy, when you are putting all these limitations, restrictions, or, you're being a little bit too structured in your life and I have to accomplish this right now. And if I don't do it now, then I won't be able to do it ever. And that's what holds us back from doing things, is we think it's too late. We think, oh, because it didn't work out the first time we tried it, it'll never work out, or I don't want to go for it anymore, or I'm stupid and I can't do this. That's not true. If you want to be this strong, resilient, super successful person who's been through the things, who has all the knowledge, you have to be handed all the lessons. You have to be handed the roadblocks. You have to be handed the problems. You have to be handed the uncertainty, the time, because all that stuff is going to give you the knowledge and all the tools that you need to gain to become the highest version of yourself. If you want to be the strongest person, you have to be handed the hardest situations. You have to be broken down. You have to have your moments of weaknesses, because that's what builds you up and that's what makes you different. Nobody's just built strong. I wasn't just built knowledgeable. You guys will say to me, oh, you're so wise beyond your years. Yeah, because I've gone through a lot of shit. I was handed a lot of shit. Me maturing started at a very young age. No one should have to mature at 7 years old. No one should have to go through what I did. But I had to go through that stuff to have the knowledge I have now. So yeah, like I'm really knowledgeable. I'm really, you're knowledgeable, you're mature, you know all these things. You give big sister energy. I look up to you. You're inspiring. I was handed a lot of shit really young, which forced me to become that person. And I'm not sitting here being like, woe is me, like feel bad for me. No, I'm happy I went through all that stuff, because now that was part of my purpose. That was part of my dharma, was going through this stuff, learning this stuff so that I can do this for you guys. If I didn't have all the shit that I went through in my life, if I didn't make all the mistakes, if I wasn't, silly, goofy girl being crazy, chaotic, rebellious, I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk to you guys and share that knowledge. I don't want to learn from somebody who hasn't been through it. I don't want to talk to somebody about successful relationships or heartbreak with somebody who's been smooth sailing and been with the same lover since they were 8 years old. Yeah, they might know a few things, but they're not going to be able to relate to me. They're not going to be able to talk about toxic relationships. They could learn about them, but the best teachers are the ones who've been through it themselves. And you're also your best teacher. I've learned so much from just myself and my mistakes and everything. You have to trust yourself that you are your best teacher. You are going to learn all your lessons, and you are going to find yourself and discover yourself and become the highest potential of yourself, become the best version of yourself through all the stuff, through yourself. And it's going to take time, because the answer is there, but it's going to take time to reveal itself. And we have to go through all the mud and all the stuff to get there. It's like chapters of a book. You have to get through the whole book for it to make sense. If you just go to the last page, you're not going to feel so good about the happy ending. It's going to be like, oh, cool. Mary ended up with Steve and they lived happily ever after. Well, that doesn't feel as good as knowing that Mary and Steve went through a lot together, and there were all these chapters building up to their romance and this slow love, and they had this happen and this happen and this happen. And then when you get to the end and you read that, you go, oh my God, like I'm so happy for them. They went through all that stuff, and all that stuff that they went through made sense because it equipped them for this beautiful life that they're going to have together. If you don't go through all the uncertainty and all the heartbreaks and all of the, failed jobs and rejection and all the stuff where we're trying new things, if you don't go through that, you're not going to find your purpose, and it's not going to feel as fulfilling. I started doing yoga like 3 years ago. And around kind of the same time that I started doing TikTok-ish, I didn't really get serious about yoga probably until about 2 years ago, when I started doing it every single day. And I found yoga because I was going through heartbreak and because I hurt my knee. Physical heartbreak, mental heartbreak, spiritual heartbreak, all the heartbreaks led me to yoga. And I started practicing it, and I started just to love it. I fell in love with it. And it helped heal me in so many ways, and it forever heals me. And I show up to the mat every day with a new problem or not a problem, but it's usually, there's something that brings me to that mat every day. And it's usually the feeling that I get from doing yoga and laying in savasana and knowing I completed that practice and I worked through that, whether it was I was struggling mentally that day, whether my body was physically sore that day or needed an extra stretch, or I needed to get my mind off something. There's something that brings me back every single time. And there's no better feeling than laying on your mat after you've done the hard work and you're just like, like that class made sense now. Like that, I went through all that hard stuff. I held that pose for really long so that I can sit and lay now and be really, really proud of myself and feel like I made it. I did it. I got through this and I can do it again tomorrow. And that's kind of like the feeling of finding your purpose, is going through, so many things, trying so many things to land on that one thing and to be like, like I made it. This makes sense. This feels right. And I know it feels right because the other things haven't felt this right before. Yeah, so I started practicing yoga and I just loved the feeling that it gave me and it healed me. And I never imagined myself being a yoga instructor, just because, I had moments where I was like, yeah, I'd love to teach it. But at the same time, I was like, this is also kind of for me. And I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can verbally cue a class and talk for 60 minutes straight and say, left leg up, inwards, crunch, shoot out, shooting star. Like I kind of was like, I can't do that. Like that's a lot. That's a lot of verbiage. I'm constantly messing up my words. I'm stuttering. It's a lot to remember. I just think I'm too old to try to start, doing this. I'm 29, but I was like, I don't know. Like it's like kind of like a whole new, what am I going to go back to teaching? Like I used to teach group fitness a while back and be in the fitness space. And it was something I kind of shied away from because it was the last thing that I had for myself. And I just thought, I'm not going to teach yoga. I'm not going to make something, one of my hobbies, another job of mine. And something happened. It wasn't like it was something that really like hit me hard. And I was like, why am I not going for the things that I want? I just put things in perspective to me. Like, why am I wasting time? Like there's certain controllables in my life. I don't want to live with regrets. I don't want to sit back one day and be 40 and be like, hey, I wish I went for that when I was 29 and did it, And I just decided one day, like, I need to do things that feel right. And every time I was in the yoga studio, it just felt right. And I loved sharing. And I just felt like there was something more to give. And I had to just overcome the initial fear of being like, I'm going to become a yoga instructor. Like that was all I had to just like get over that. Like I had to get over the fact of like, yeah, Nicole, you're not going to know what you're doing. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. And if you could sit here and say, I'm going to be a yoga instructor, then you can absolutely be a yoga instructor. And I was 4:30 in the morning. I was in the airport. I texted Mimi or DM'd her and I said, Mimi, tell me more about yoga teacher training. I think I want to do it. She said, you're going to do it? Do it right now. And I said, okay. And that was it. And I told you guys this, I think in last week or the episode before. And it just felt right. And since then, since doing my yoga teacher training, I can't imagine why I didn't do this sooner. But again, it all makes sense because I think I'm in the right phase of my life right now. I had to go through all this stuff. I had to just enjoy yoga for myself for 3 years and understand what it did for me, to have the appreciation and the love for it, to be able to teach it now and to be able to give back because it gave so much to me. And it made sense why I couldn't focus on it, at the time, even 6 months ago, why I couldn't focus on it or think about it. It makes sense. I'm at a point now where it's like, I'm fully dedicated to this. I am treating this like it's my lover. It's getting all my time. It's getting all my energy. And I'm in the right mental headspace to get the most out of this. I'm in the right mental headspace to be able to curate an energy in a room for people. And I've found my faith again. I've found my peace. I've just really come into myself this last year, even the last 6 months. And I've really fine-tuned all the relationships in my life. And I'm filled with so much love and light and happiness. And I've truly never been in a better place in my life where I'm so happy that this is the time that I chose to do this. Could I have done it sooner? Sure. Would it have felt as right as it does right now? No. And I'm 29 years old and I'm just learning something new. I'm going to be a yoga instructor for the first time in my life. I'm teaching, sun salutations for the first time in my life. And I'm 29. If somebody told me at 15 or someone told me at 19, even Nicole, you're going to be a yoga instructor, I would have been like, okay. And maybe I would have done it. I would have been like, really? But okay, if that's what you're saying that I'm supposed to do, I trust you. If God was like, Nicole, you're going to be a yoga instructor, I'm going to be like, okay, all right, let's do it. But I wouldn't have carried the same energy that I am to it now. I wouldn't have appreciated it the same. I wouldn't be able to spread the knowledge that I'm going to be able to spread choosing to be a yoga instructor at this time in my life. You think my classes are just going to be yoga classes? You're so wrong. I'm gonna curate the experience. Everything's gonna be a lessons and be a mini TED talk every morning. People are gonna be shut the fuck up and be I'm sure every day will be different, but I just feel I am just that type of person where it's I want to get deep. I want this to be an experience for every single person. And had I chosen to do this career 19 years old, God said, Nicole, you're going to be a yoga instructor. I don't know if my classes would have been the same. I don't know if I would have been the same yoga instructor. I don't know if I would have been able to give as much as I'm able to give right now, which is why I'm so happy that yoga found me when it did. And that I decided to do this when I did. And it all makes sense. And nothing that I've done before this has been a waste of time. I've had a lot of jobs, and you guys maybe don't know this about me. Some of you maybe do if you've been here for a while, but I've had a lot of jobs. I've worked in fashion. I've worked in hospitality. I've worked in sales. I used to, teach kickboxing. I went through a phase where I was like, maybe I'll just go back to the family business, but it just wasn't for me. I've taught before. It just wasn't. And it was that specific teaching that wasn't right. It felt good. I knew I was supposed to serve others. And now being an influencer, that's where I found my first Dharma. That was my first love. That's why I have Dharma in my neck. That's why it's one of the 2 tattoos I'm keeping, because I found my purpose in serving. That's what made me feel the most fulfilled. That's what made me want to, it wasn't a question of, do I want to show up today? It was just, I'm going to get on TikTok. I'm going to post my videos. I'm going to talk about whatever I want to talk about. And that's what's fulfilling me. And that's how I found a career. It worked out because I am so passionate about it. Had I gone for something I wasn't as passionate about, I would have hated it every day. I would have despised it. And I wouldn't have been as successful. I wouldn't have been as abundant. And I found that serving was my Dharma, and now I'm finding different outlets for that. TikTok started silly, but it turned out to be an outlet for that. And then I brought it to this podcast, and this is another one of my loves. This is, something that I cherish deeply in this community I love so much, and this is my Dharma, speaking to you guys. This was my purpose. I'm serving you in a different way. I'm in your ears. I'm on your television. I'm connecting with you guys. And it's fulfilling me. And it came to a point again where I was like, there's more. There's something more. And I don't know what it is, but I need to find it. And then it was yoga. And now it's going to be able to teach you guys. And you know what? I already see it going one step further, where one day it's not going to be me teaching you guys, which it always will be actually. But I could see myself teaching other people how to teach yoga. And it's just going to go on and on. I see myself being a mentor in so many ways. I see myself, helping people heal. I see myself having a whole wellness community. I see myself having my own studio, a whole brand. And I left my yoga teacher training crying yesterday, and I could cry thinking about it now because I said, this makes sense. My life makes sense. Why did I work in fashion for that random year in my life? Hello, maybe it's so that I could apply it, hint, hint, if I ever want to create an athleisure brand. Okay, I've never said that out loud to you guys because it's something that I'm, keeping quiet. But that's a goal of mine. Why did I work in hospitality? I learned to cater to people. I learned how to curate an experience. Why am I an influencer? I learned how to talk to you guys. I learned how to connect with you guys. I learned how to market. I learned how to edit. I learned how to campaign. I learned how to, create ads. All of this is making so much sense. It's just so crazy now. It's now I can maybe create a physical space for you guys to come to, not just online. And when I was 23, 24, I remember putting so much pressure on myself of like, what do I want to do? And that's why I jumped into so many things. None of them were fulfilling, but they all gave me something that I need today, and they all served a purpose, and they all had to happen. You might not love your job right now. You might not love where you're at right now, but I promise you're there for a reason. You're not, it's very rare, like for anybody who finds a partner, that they marry their first love. It's very rare. I don't know the statistics on that, but it has to be rare. It's very rare. You go through a lot of life partners, you know, you learn things from different people. A lot of people are stewards for us. A lot of people are keys for us. They're temporary. We don't own them. We borrow them. We borrow them for parts of our lives. And same with all these experiences. They're all borrowed. We have jobs that are temporary. We have jobs that we're fired from. We have jobs that we're rejected from. But we learn something through all those things. And you're not going to figure it out the first time around. Your first job, you probably won't have forever. That is so rare. That is just that's such an old age thing too. I also think it's a little bit limiting. Like my mom, she's been a pharmacist her whole life, and she went to school for that, and she went to pharmacy school. And I don't know if it was her passion. I think it was something that she was put on. My grandma wanted her to be a pharmacist. She became a pharmacist, and she stuck with it. And it's really rare. I think of a lot of her parents actually, you know, probably have a lot of the similar jobs, but to be doing a job for 30, 40 years, that's rare. And I don't know if my mom, you know, would have gone for that. I don't know if, like, yes, it's stable and it's all this stuff, but like, I don't know if it's her passion. I don't think it is. You know, I don't think it is. I don't want to speak for her, but like, I think that if she was given the freedom to be like, go and explore and try new things. And if her mom hadn't been so, you're going to be this, you're going to be this, maybe she would have explored different things. And, you know, there's positives, but there's also negatives to that. So I think what I want to get into your head is that if you're graduating school, or you just graduated, you've been in a job that you've been doing for 2 or 3 years and you hate it, or you don't think it's for you, that's normal. That's okay. That's good. You know, I think it's good to try things and to be like, okay, well, I don't like that. Of course, you can't just up and quit your job. A lot of us, we need the money to pay our rent and all this stuff. But it's like, but now I know what I don't want to do, and I can apply for some other things and figure it out. And it's not you losing. It's not you like being a mess. Like a lot of people don't have it figured out. You know, I look at a lot of my friends who, when they graduated school, they got right into their finance jobs, or their this jobs, or their that jobs, you know, working at banks. And you know, they all had like, a lot of people, it seemed that they found a job right away. And I kind of was like, oh, like, I don't know, like, I'm going to intern somewhere and figure it out. And there's not one that's better than the other, but some of those people just stayed with those jobs and they were like, okay, it's fine. It pays the bills. I don't know if they're that happy. I actually ran into a girl who was from my high school just a couple weeks ago when I was in Rhode Island. It was so random. I was in Newport, Rhode Island for Brandon's birthday. And I decided to go to a hot yoga class in the morning. There's this really cute studio there that I wanted to try called Mend. If you're in Newport, Rhode Island, you should try it. It ended up being like a hit yoga class. Anyways, that's besides the point. I walk into class and I hear a girl and she goes, Nicole. And I was like, yes. And it was this girl who I went to high school with. I was like, oh my God, hi. And we just start talking, and I haven't seen her in a really long time. I don't know anything about her. She has this boyfriend. It's so funny. Like, you see them, it's like, where did you find him? You know, it's like, he didn't go to our hometown. Like, people have lives. Like, people go on to move to different cities and have lives and their jobs and careers. And she was like, she's like, are you doing influencing full time? And I was like, yes. She's like, that's amazing. Like, you seem so happy. You seem like you love your job. Like, that's just really cool that you were able to do that. And I was like, thank you. Like, it took a lot of, you know, exploring. It took a lot of rejection. It took a lot of times where I had a really unstable, like, my income wasn't coming in, you know. And there's times when I had no job and people would be like, what do you do? And I'd be like, I'm unemployed right now. Like, there was times where that was it too. Or there was times when people were working at Deloitte and I was working at Catch Hospitality. And maybe they'd look down on me and be like, wow, you're just a hostess, you know, like, you're just hostessing. That's what you're doing with your life. And it's like, yeah, but I would rather that than, you know, be doing the same thing and be upset. It's like, Deloitte might make you happy, or maybe it doesn't, but it certainly won't make me happy. I don't care how much money comes with it, but like, I'm figuring out what works for me. And she was just telling me how she went to nursing school, she became a nurse. And she's like, yeah, I just, I was like, oh my God, like, do you love it? And she's like, no, I don't. She's like, I'm trying to do something new, but I don't know. And, it sucks because some people will just get stuck in that. And some people will just be afraid to try new things because they fear looking silly. They fear trying something new, starting something new when they're a little bit older. They fear the judgment of others. They compare themselves to other people. They think that they should be at a certain phase in their life because other people are. I have a lot of friends getting married, having babies every day. It's a new engagement. I just saw one yesterday, a girl who was my big in college, engaged. And it's like, we couldn't be at more different times in our lives. And I'm so happy for her, and I'm so happy that that's the route that her life took. There was no, oh, like, I wish my life went like that or whatever, because I'm happy. I'm fulfilled. I feel so lucky that I'm still exploring parts of myself and still coming into my purpose. And for some people, it's like, that might be, it for them. She's going to get married and have kids, and I don't know her life. Again, this girl who I just saw on Instagram, I don't know her life now, but maybe now she doesn't go on to find her full purpose, or she doesn't, or maybe she never did, or maybe she did. Like, again, I don't know. This is why you can't compare. Some people will have jobs and they'll be doing all the right things, checking the boxes of what you're supposed to do: graduate, job, marry, kids. Cool. If that's their life, if that's what makes them happy, but you don't really know them unless you actually know them. Are they happy? Are they finding their purpose? Is that what fulfills them? Do they wish they had tried something new? Do they wish they hadn't, jumped into the marriage so soon? Do they wish that they had quit the job? You can't compare yourself because you just don't know. And it's just really toxic to do so, to compare or to hold yourself to a certain standard that's kind of unattainable, of like, you should know exactly what your life's purpose is. That's a big deal. That's a big deal, finding your dharma, finding what really makes you happy. There's probably not a lot of people who have a job that really makes them happy, and I'm really lucky that I found that and I continue to find that. You are capable of doing that. You can do that, but you have to be okay with the in-betweens. You have to be okay with the downtime. You have to be okay with things failing. You have to be okay with possibly people's, judgment of you. You have to be okay with being let down sometimes, or, the anxiety that comes with figuring these things out. But you have to focus on the big picture. And I think that's the key. And I actually just opened up my book today, my notebook from Vu. And I was like, let me flip through, because it really helps to look back at old, services and read my notes. Depending, I'll scan through and I'll be like, what resonates with me today? Like, what do I need to hear in this, whatever? Because I forget sometimes. And this specific one was about a mature mindset. The first note I have is, God's promises don't expire. God has a life planned out for you. Your life is there. And whether or not you follow that path and you find all those things is up to you. But he's promised you a certain life and it's planned for you. And it's kind of up to you to follow the path and to trust in that and have faith and go with your intuition and be okay with possibly making the mistakes and all these things along the way. Fulfillment is on the other end of that. Your purpose is on the other end of that. You're going to have to fight through some shit to get there, though. So like it says, my next point, following Jesus means walking through storms. Don't be consumed by the setbacks. They don't remove opportunity. Setbacks do not remove opportunity. That's so important. When things happen, that doesn't mean that the opportunity to gain that thing isn't still there. That doesn't mean that the opportunity to accomplish that has diminished. It's still there. It's still attainable. If anything, this is arming you to get there. This is just a little, a little roadblock that you have to work through. How bad do you want it? How willing are you to work through this to get the thing? How bad is this? Just something that you want because it's a material thing, because it's a status thing, or do you actually want it? And that's how you know if you're finding your purpose, if you are willing to deal with whatever it is to get there. If it's not the money that you're chasing, if it's the happiness that you're chasing, if it's the fulfillment that you're chasing. So in order to overcome the storm, you have to submit to the bigger picture. You have to say to yourself, I understand that it's not going to be smooth sailing. I understand that things are going to happen. I understand that it's maybe not going to feel right. I understand that I might have to take this job that I don't really love for a couple months or whatever to work up to the position that I want, or to be able to put this on my resume so that I can apply for the position that I want. Like, it takes time. It's not just going to happen. You can't just expect to get the first job and be like, this is it. This is the fulfillment. This makes sense for me. You're going to have to go through a lot of stuff. And maybe you know exactly what you want to do, but there's a lot of things that you have to go through to get there. Like, nobody just started off as the best at anything. I'm sure they started off at the bottom, unless it was handed to you, which would be nice, I guess. I don't know. I didn't want to make this about, like, I know some people listen to this and they might not go to church or be religious and whatever. They might not use God. They might, have a different God. That's fine. It's not about that. It's just about finding your purpose and being okay with it maybe taking some time. I think it's ridiculous. I'm talking to this girl in my yoga teacher training who's 19 years old. And I was like, what's your major? And she was like, I forget what she said. And then she was like, but I'm switching it. I don't like that. I don't want to do that. And I said, great. I feel like some people would be like, oh, really? I was like, that's amazing. Switch it, girl. Switch it again. Like, I wish that I had the courage when I was her age to switch mine. I actually loved animal science, and it was really cool learning that stuff that I did. I was pre-veterinary, and it was just put in my head that I had to be a vet. My grandma chirped in my ear, Nicole, you're going to be a vet. You're going to be a vet, because our aunt was a vet. She knew I liked animals, and she was like, you should be a vet. They have, stable careers. They make good money. That's what it all was about. That's how my grandparents thought. Money, because they lived in a time where, they went through the depression, and they wanted the security and the stability and all this stuff. So she was like, be a vet. Everybody's going to need a vet, whatever. And I went to vet school, or I went to pre-veterinary, and it wasn't my purpose. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I probably should have gone for something simpler, like marketing, or just what, I don't know, just business, whatever, business something. That would have been great. But I didn't know. And I was young, and whatever. I went to school and I graduated, and I was like, I don't want to be a vet. I love animals. I don't want to be a vet. You put that idea in my head. I didn't want to even change I guess it was too much. I was like, I didn't want to go back for all this stuff. I was like, let me just get my agricultural degree. And I never switched. But what I did was I experimented post-college, and I graduated with a bachelor's in agricultural science. And you know what I did? I got a internship at a fashion showroom. Me applying for these jobs too is like so ridiculous. Like, I was applying for so many jobs, and it was like, what's your, background? And I'm just like, oh, I can stick my hand up a cow's ass, but like, I can definitely help you, design that top. Like, they were just like, okay, like what? Like, but I went for it, and I tried different things, and all of it was really, it really built, like, everything made me who I was, and I learned so much from everything. And I did that job for a little bit, and then I was like, I'm not, jiving with this that much. Let me try something new. I know I like, working with people. And then I worked in hospitality, and I dove into that. And then I was like, I'm really good at, selling things. I want to learn a little bit more about business stuff, and, work more in like a corporate setting, kind of like get a taste of that, because I never had that. And then I did sales at Equinox, and I sat behind a computer, and I was like, all right, enough of that. Don't like that. And I quit. And maybe I look stupid. I actually quit that job, and then 6 months later went back to the job because I needed the money. and they loved me and I was good at it, but it didn't make me happy. I was good at it, but it didn't do anything for me. Like, yeah, I was kind of changing people's lives in the sense where I was like putting them onto their fitness journey, which was fulfilling, but it wasn't enough for me. But I went back to that job, which may have been embarrassing. And you know what? I quit again. Like, I think I quit like another 6 months later. So that was when I kind of was like, all right, I tried it again. Still not working. This is not meant for me. And just because I'm good at it and just because they want me to stay and they love me does not mean that this is where I have to stay. And people looked at me like crazy, like, you're quitting this and now you're going back to, you're just working nightlife. What are you doing? And I was like, I don't know, people. I don't know what I'm doing, but there's something here. There's something here. Like, it's got to make sense for me. And when I moved to Miami, I didn't mean to stay here, and I wasn't even really an influencer. I actually wasn't at all. I think I had 5,000 not even 4,000 followers on Instagram. I had, 40K followers on TikTok and declining every single day. I was losing followers as I was posting more. And I was just like, I was this delusional mind. I was Delulu, and I was like, I'm going to be an influencer. And I dove into it because that's what was the most fun for me. I was applying for jobs. I was self-sabotaging. I was fudging up all my interviews. I wasn't showing up. There was one that I almost got. I went to 3 different interviews. They loved me. It was like a small startup. I forget even what I was going to do for them. It was completely out of my expertise. And it was definitely like I was going to wear many hats, and I left that job being like, oh, I'm getting this job. Like, I'm so psyched. Like, I finally got a job here. Like, everyone's going to be so proud of me. I'm doing all the things right. Like, whatever. I'm working at this cool startup. And then they never emailed me back after they literally said to me verbally, like, oh yeah, like, you got the job. Like, they probably shouldn't have said that, but they were like, we want to like onboard you. Like, we're just going to talk about a few more things because we're kind of like opening up this position for you. But like, this is going to be amazing. You're exactly what we're looking for. You're going to bring like the best blah, 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 blah into this company. And I left that and I was so psyched. I was like, oh my God, like, I'm going to be like a cool startup girly. Like, I'm going to be like building this business from the ground up. It's going to be like the love of my life. God, I can't remember what it was. It was something with like, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I was like really stoked, pretending to be stoked, in my heart of hearts. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I don't even know what this job is. People would be like, what job did you apply for? I'd be like, I don't know, to be honest, but it sounds cool. And they never emailed me back. I never heard from them. They ghosted me. And what's so funny is like, I wasn't even upset. Like, I never even sent a follow-up email like, hey, like, are you actually gonna hire me? Like, nothing. They didn't respond to me, so they didn't want me, so I didn't want them. But I feel like it just wasn't meant to be, and I wasn't hurt by it. Like, even though I was like living off my savings and my savings were depleting every single day, I was like, I want to be an influencer. I don't care that this other shit didn't work out. I don't care that people are looking at me like, what the fuck is she doing? I don't care that people ask me what my job is. And I said nothing. I said, I don't have a job. And I'm surrounded by the most successful people in the world. All my friends like are extremely successful. Not just them. I'm just talking about Miami in general. Like, there's so much success and wealth and entrepreneurs and people who are 21 and they are driving Lamborghinis. Like, and here I am, when I moved here, 26, being like, oh, I don't have a job. People would be like, what? Why? What are you doing? Then why are you going to the gym every day? Why aren't you stressed? Like, I wasn't stressed. Like, I was just like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm living off my savings and like, I want to be this. So I'm going to go for it. Like, I would rather die than take another job that doesn't make me happy, because I understand that I am supposed to be on TikTok. Like, I just knew it. I was like, I get it. And, because I kind of like went through all that shit, because I dropped my ego at the door and I didn't care what people thought about me. And I realized like, I'm living life for me. I'm on my own timeline. I don't care if the people around me are getting all these promotions. My friends are getting all these promotions. They work at Google, all this stuff. I'm like, that's amazing. Here I am just being like, I posted a TikTok today, and that's just what made me happy in it. And it worked out, and I'm so happy I stuck with that, and I'm so happy the jobs didn't work out, and I'm so happy I didn't do what I was supposed to do and stick to the jobs that I, hated, or stick to the jobs that, were paying my bills and I was fine with. But, I didn't want to do them. And I'm so happy that I had the courage to do that. And I didn't tie myself to any specific outcome or time, because had I been like, Nicole, if you don't figure it out, if it doesn't all work out for you by 26, you have to take that job. Like, you have to do that thing or whatever. Like, you need to uphold your image. You need to have a job. You need to have an answer when people ask you, what do you do with your life and what do you love doing? And I kind of didn't like tie myself to that box. And I was just kind of like, I don't know. And I allowed myself the space to say, I don't know. And, you know, even at the yoga teacher training, everybody was kind of explaining like what they do. And one girl was like, yeah, I do this. But like, she's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know where I see this going. I don't know what I want to do with my life. And everyone said, that's okay. That's great. Like, I think to be able to sit and say, I don't know, is really strong. I think that takes a really strong person to just admit that to themselves and to other people, because then you're able to go somewhere from there. You're able to be playful. You're able to explore. You're able to open your mind to things that maybe you thought you would never do or wouldn't align with you. And it took me just recently being like, I don't know, there's something more. Like, I'm lost. I was like, I don't know, where my platform's going. I don't know where my videos are going. I don't know. I need something more. And I kind of, I cried about it and I talked to my therapist and I said, I don't know. And, it was after like a mental breakdown and something happening that I said, wait, light bulb, I'm going to just get my yoga teacher certification. And then maybe, I'll start to know, and maybe things will start to figure itself out, because I could see myself, I want this wellness community. How do I get there? And I had to take the step of being like, you don't know, and you should probably get a certification in yoga teacher training. And that makes sense now. But at that time I was like, it didn't make sense, So yeah, like, I'm 29 and just figuring out who I am. Like, these last 6 months, I figured out who I am more than I did the last 28 years of my life. But I had to go through all that, of course. I had to go through all my phases, but I'm just starting to understand who I am. And I'm just starting to understand my strengths. And I'm just starting to know the things, know my strong points, know my weak points, know the things that trigger me. I'm just starting to work through a lot of things and find who I truly am. And I'm not hiding behind anything anymore. I'm not hiding behind my tattoos. I'm not hiding behind this tough exterior that I put up. I'm not trying to pretend like I was happy in all aspects of my life. Like, I really stripped down and looked at myself and admitted that I didn't know what I was doing, admitted that I was hurting, admitted that I was doing things wrong. And it took that for me to be able to start healing and really finding who I am. And you guys have been like, yeah, I've noticed your energy has changed. I've noticed you've changed. And even I was looking back at videos that I posted, a while, not even that long ago, like 6 months ago, 8 months ago. And I was like, the energy is so different. Like, I am so different. I didn't realize it. Like, because I feel, for me now, I'm like, I feel like I've always been like this, like, I feel like this has always been me, and it has been, but I've just been covered. It's like those little Chinese dolls that like have the shells over them. Like, I feel like I always knew who I was, but I had to like take off all those layers for you guys to see me, and for me to really lean into who I am. And I'm sure in 10 years I can't even imagine who I'm going to be then. Like, if this is me now, there's so much growth, there's so much to learn. So like, I want you to know, like, there's never a time where you're not going to be learning, or you're not going to be growing, or you're not going to become a better version for yourself, unless you don't want to anymore. And that's up to you. Like, if you're like, I don't want to grow, I don't want to change, that's your prerogative. That's how you choose to live your life. I don't think anybody would really choose that, though, because I think if you're choosing that, you're probably really afraid, or you're limiting yourself, and putting yourself in a box. But there's always room for improvement. There's always a time for you to discover something new about yourself, or to pick up a new hobby, or to apply for that job, or to get that job, or to start something new. And no matter how young you are, no matter how old you are, we're all figuring it out. Because somebody could be 50 and being like, I'm going to say to hell with what I just knew about myself for the last 50 years of my life, and I'm going to go for something new. And somebody who's, 20 could be going through that same thing of being like, I'm also going to try something new. Like we're all just human beings trying to have fun and figure life out. And you're never going to probably fully know yourself. Honestly, you might not ever. You might be 80 years old, and that's when maybe you finally know yourself completely. And that's okay. Like, I'm excited for you guys. And I hope that you take the pressure off yourself and you allow yourself just to be playful. You allow yourself the space to not know. You allow yourself the space to learn and to try new things, and stop thinking that you have to have all the answers, because you don't. And lean on other people. Lean on people who are maybe older and wiser and can give you some advice. And I'm sure they're going to tell you the same thing of like, just do what makes you happy and follow that. Follow your heart and experiment and move to different cities and make yourself uncomfortable. And don't tie yourself to one specific thing, and don't put yourself on any timeline. Just be happy with where you are, and trust that if you're doing things that are making you feel good, if you are doing things that are fulfilling you, if you are doing things that feel positive to you and leave you with a good energy, then you're heading in the right direction. And if you're doing things that also feel hard and are uncomfortable and are scary and get you all nervous, that's also an indication that you're going in the right direction. Because if it doesn't scare you, it's probably not worth it. If it doesn't make you nervous, then you don't care. It's like me walking or pacing around my apartment for an hour yesterday, practicing my sun salutation. I did that because I care. And then no matter how much I practice it, when I stood up in front of my colleagues and had to do it for them, it was like, yeah, this is scary. I'm nervous, but I'm going to do it, and I'm excited, and I'm nervous because I'm afraid, because I care. I'm nervous because I care, and I don't want to mess it up. And with Mimi was saying this, my yoga instructor, she was just like, being nervous is a privilege because it shows you care. And you should absolutely go for the things that maybe aren't so certain, because those are probably the things that are going to fulfill you and excite you the most, and fulfill you and make you feel the best. And I don't mean go for the guys who make you feel, who aren't sure about you. Don't twist what I'm saying. It has to feel good. You have to feel like in your heart you want to go for it, but then you're like, oof, but I'm scared, and it's usually those things that are the things that end up being right for us. And remember, it's only your first time. The first time. Like, you only have one first time doing something. Me teaching yesterday was going to be my last first time doing that. Every time after that now, it's like it's all just going to become, the new normal. So yeah, I don't know. I hope this episode was really encouraging for you guys. Just go for the things that you want, and stop trying to have it all figured out, because you'll never have it really completely all figured out. So just go with the flow and enjoy the process. But I love you all so much. Please follow me on TikTok, Nicole_Doyan, Instagram, Nicole Doyan, YouTube, Nicole Doyan, and Snapchat, Nicole Doyan. And make sure you come back for next week's episode. I love you all so freaking much, and I'm proud of you. All right, bye.